Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Katie Town, Regional Marketing Manager for AGCO. I'm excited for today's dealer education webinar, as video is probably one of the biggest areas of opportunity for you to connect with customers and prospects in an impactful way. So our subject matter experts, Chris and Aaron from AGCO Direct, are going to take us through best practices in terms of capturing content. What should you be striving for in terms of lighting, shot planning? Is your audio capturing sufficiently, and so forth? Also, what about YouTube? How do you set up a channel, and what should you post there? How often? What about live video? All sorts of things we will look at today. So we appreciate you joining, and feel free to type in any questions as we go along. Those will be answered at the end of the session. So with that, I will turn it over to Aaron and Chris to get us started.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for listening in, and pleasure to be with you today. Again, my name is Chris, and I'm just going to kick things off here. And by introducing both of us, that's me on the left, that's Aaron on the right. I am a content strategist here with AGCO Direct. I work a lot with a lot of the dealer social stuff, and also help do some paid stuff and strategy, as the title implies there. Aaron is a social specialist on our team. He's also a really talented photographer and videographer. The reason we shared this photo, one, because it's a dopey selfies are great, but that was actually Aaron and I were just a couple of weeks ago. We're down in Kentucky visiting a dealer down there, and we snapped a selfie on our way to the Jim Beam distillery.
That's why we're so excited.
That's why we were. So it was a long day. So we were ready. We got a little fun there, you can tell too.
Also, I think it's the only picture we have together. So.
Yeah, probably the only one. Yeah. So to kick us off, I'll turn this over to Aaron.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk about kind of an overview, not get too into the nitty-gritty of shooting video, but just the basics. So you can take this information and run with it on your own and start to create, some really great video for your social spaces and for your website even. So we're going to talk about lighting and composition. We're going to talk about capturing movement and audio and when you should move the camera to follow action, when you shouldn't. Planning your video when it comes to if you're going to storyboard, if you're going to kind of detail out a shot list. These are all things that we do before shoots just to make things more organized, make things flow a little more easy. We're going to talk about editing and how you shoot determines how much editing time you have, and then the different services you could use for editing, and then being on camera, being on the other side, and being the face and presenting that message, and kind of some tips and tricks for that as well. So going to lighting, there's really three main lighting directions. You've got the front, which is also called the key, which is the main fill light for even if you had one light that you're going to put it in front of your subject or maybe off just to the side. It is bright. It's going to fill up the entire subject, and it's the main thing that you need. The side light is going to add some depth and texture. You've got if you look in that bottom right image, that's one of the side lights. So you can see the shadows on the face. You can see there's some texture. The one on the left is that front light, and it's very direct. It's front. But if you add those two things together, it really creates a whole a full lighted image. And then there's some backlighting as well. That's another thing. And backlighting isn't used quite as much, and it's more of an artistic choice. It's sometimes more for glamour shooting, and it's very dynamic. And when it's done right, it's pretty spectacular, I think. But it's not necessarily something that you go out to shoot on a basic level. You don't go out to shoot, I'm going to go do some silhouette shots, or I'm going to do some water effects. It's a little more dynamic than that. But the backlighting does add a lot as well. So in general, you want to keep the light at your back. You want whenever you're shooting stuff, you want it to be even light. Avoid super bright sunlight when you can. Whenever we shoot, if we're trying to go for good-looking video or photos, we're shooting, between 6 and 8 in the morning, and we're shooting, 7 to 9 at night. When the sun is lower, it's less harsh, and it provides just a more even light. Because when it comes to video, really it is 95% lighting. If you want something to look really, really good, it's going to take it from good to great. It's all in the lighting. Next thing is composition. So when we shoot and we're shooting photos and videos, we're not trying to make things look too busy. We want to focus on one subject, a single dominant subject. So when someone looks at the image or watches the video, they know exactly what they're supposed to be looking at. So you want something that's also going to be in the foreground, but also something have in the background to give it some context, to give it some space, to give it some depth. As you can see in this image here, you got the tractor. It's nice and full in the frame, and you've got that barn in the back, so you can kind of tell, what type of setting it's in, how far away from the barn it is. That background shot, or the background of it, gives it some nice color and some nice. It really brings you to that environment. Like I said, you want to fill the frame. So if you look at this tractor shot, the top of the tractor is going almost all the way to that top of the frame, and then the implement on the front is nearing the bottom, and it's very prominent. You know exactly what you're seeing, and it's so much clearer and so much easier to see the details of the tractor and of the implement. When it's filled like that, you do want to get a variety of shots when you're shooting. You got wide shots, medium, detailed. It's when you're editing video, we're going to talk about that a little later. It's really hard to go from wide shot to wide shot to wide shot. You want to go from wide shot to maybe a detailed shot. We'll talk about jump cuts and stuff like that a little bit too. But you can never really have too much footage if you're shooting a video when you want to be when you're going to edit it together. And then we'll talk a little bit about horizontal versus vertical. Kind of depends on your use for it. If you're going to be editing something together and you want to put together a little commercial or stuff like that, I prefer shooting horizontal, just because it looks more like a TV. It's the phone shape, and it's just so much easier to edit with too.
We can maybe just jump in. We can probably talk a little bit about horizontal versus vertical when we discuss social, since that's a little bit more keyed to social media.
For sure. So here's an example of the variety of shots. That top left one is a detailed shot. You're getting that Massey Ferguson logo. Same with the hat. You're getting super up close. It's almost abstract, but it kind of shows the viewer the little fine pieces that you can't see in a medium or a wide shot. But we like to use wide shots as more of sometimes an establishing shot to let people know where we are. Medium shots kind of show some action, and then the details. Really, I love detail shots. Those are some of my favorite ones to shoot because you can be so creative with them, with the lighting or with the angles and stuff like that. So these, you want to get a variety of all of these shots and lots of all of these shots as well. So one thing when it comes to shooting, it kind of wraps into the composition as well. It's called the rule of thirds. So if you were to divide or put lines on the frame that would kind of separate the image into thirds, you want to keep the subject or the action happening on that rule of thirds. It's very, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but it's sometimes a little interesting when the subject is right in the middle, and there's a creative reason to do that. There's definitely a time and a place for it. if you're talking directly into the camera, if you have a message for the viewer and you're talking directly in the camera, by all means, stand right in the center of the frame, fill the frame, because that is the subject. But if you're interviewing someone, or if you're shooting a tractor rolling across a field or a road, you definitely don't want to keep it right in the middle, because there's so much blank space on one side or on either side of the tractor. So if you look on that right image, the woman running, she's in the left third line, and if you can also do it on the horizontal lines as well. So she's in that bottom left corner, and there's so much extra space. And I like to do when I shoot, talk about head or lead room. So she's running from left to right, so I like to leave so much extra room on the right, because it's showing that where she could go. The left one is also a great shot. It's kind of an artistic shot, and it kind of shows where they've been, but it's in that bottom right lower third line where those two lines intercept, I guess. And make sure if you do have any questions, your message, or you're putting them in the chat, and that way we can touch on them at the end as well. So when it comes to capturing movement, when I was taught video a few years ago or years ago, it was tripod, 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 tripod. And when in doubt, you really don't want to move the camera or the phone off the tripod, or even at all. If you can set up a tripod and you can stand there and talk about a deal or talk about a tractor, that is the best video. Any extra shaking or movement, it can be distracting to the viewer, especially if it's unintended, especially if it gets a little extra. It is tough. It is sometimes tough to watch video that isn't on tripod. It's so much easier to watch video that was on a tripod. If you are going to zoom or pan, and zoom obviously is moving closer or farther away from the subject, and panning is moving the camera left to right with the action. Make sure you use it sparingly, and make sure you use it as if there's a reason. If someone, like we go back to that woman running, if she's running left to right, that is a very real reason to move the camera, to pan the camera left to right, to follow that action. Same thing with the tractor. If you wanted to follow that action, that's a great reason why. But if you're moving the camera or you're panning left to right really for no reason, that's when it kind of becomes really distracting. And then also you want to keep your subject in the frame at all times. And there are some different artistic choices if you wanted to have the camera set and have the action move into frame and then all the way out of it. But generally, if you're doing a tractor or an implement or someone talking, you want to follow that action and you want to follow the subject. So it's really, if you're going to do movement, if you're going to zoom, if you're going to pan, have a reason. That's the biggest point of this one. And now capturing audio. Your camera mic normally, if it's a quiet area, if it's not a lot of ambient noise, your camera mic is going to be perfectly fine. And we can talk about how your camera on your phone is the best option in 99% of the time, because cameras have evolved and gotten so great in the last few years, or that you've got a really, really great tool in your pocket. And the camera mic is good in most situations, but you do need to watch out for ambient noise. If you've got wind, if you've got fans, if you've got a loud tractor running, if you've got cars running by, those are all things, because the mic is so far away from the subject or whoever's talking or whatever noise you're trying to pick up, it's going to pick up a lot of extra stuff if there's a lot of ambient noise going on.
I had a point on that too. We kind of expect the phone to act like the human ear. But it actually really doesn't. So when somebody's speaking, or there's like one source of audio that we're keying in on, our brains are sort of figuring that audio out for us and tuning everything else out. Well, a camera mic doesn't do that. A camera mic just picks up everything. So maybe kind of a rule of thumb there is, like, if you just want to test what the audio is like, just shoot a quick little test video and then listen, and you might hear some wind, or you might hear a fan or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So yeah, like Chris said, make sure to test out that audio, especially if you're not quite sure. If someone is speaking, make sure to get your camera and phone as close as possible, because you do, like we're going back to the composition phrase, the composition slide, is that you do want to fill the frame. You do want to get as close as possible, and that's going to make the audio as clear as it possibly can. And then consider a lav mic. A lav mic is a mic that you would attach to the subject, and there are wireless lav mics, there are wired lav mics. There's definitely an option, but what we want to talk about, just because we want you to get this basic understanding, is that you can, with your phone and with all these basic things, you can go out and shoot all this stuff without any extra microphones, any extra lighting. It's just kind of understanding how to do it the best way with the stuff that you've got. So when it comes to planning your video, if you do have a choice, you want to pick the best location for sound and light. When I choose a location, I either like to be, if we have that golden hour, we call the magic hour, when it's early in the morning when the sun is low, or if it's later at night the sun is low, that is the best time that I like to shoot. And if we can't get that, I prefer shooting almost in complete shade. If you can still see the sun, or the sun is still or it's still light out, so it's not dark. But when you're in the shade, it's just such an even light, and you can see everything so much better. There's not light shining through trees, or it's not super direct, and there's harsh shadows. That's kind of how I like to shoot. Also, if you have an opportunity to shoot on an overcast day, that is the best light diffuser out there, is clouds in the sky, and it's such even light, and it makes you may not think about it, think that it's true, but go shoot a video on when it's super bright at noon, when the light is above your head, and then shoot the same video the next day if it's overcast, and you'll see just how much more even the light is. And then sound-wise, yeah, try to pick somewhere that's away from that ambient noise, and try to get as close to the subject as possible, especially when they're talking. Scripts are fine, but it's a lot more natural to talk just about your expertise and just have a conversation. The viewer at home, they'll have a pretty good understanding, and they'll be able to tell when stuff is scripted. They've heard enough stuff on the internet that they know is scripted. They want to hear something that's more authentic. They're going to believe something that's more authentic. So maybe make a quick outline of the things you want to say, but use your expertise, use your knowledge, and just have a conversation, because that's what's going to go over the best in the videos. And then think it through. What do you want your video to look like? What if you were on social media, or if you were on YouTube, and you saw a video, or you've seen videos, I'm sure you have. What is the stuff that makes those videos look great? What is the stuff that you think is distracting? So take all of that into account to make those decisions to make your video look and sound great. As far as editing, we won't go too much into this. The biggest thing we want to tell you is that editing takes a lot of time. I would say 25% is the shooting time, 75% is the editing time. Depending on what you're shooting. So when you're talking about video for social media, which soon video is going to be every single post you see on social, you want to think the one good shot. So you want to get one really clean take, even if you have to do a take, 5-6 times. As long as you get one clean one, that really minimizes your editing time, and you can get it online and you can get it in front of your audience. So think about that one good shot. If you are planning on doing some video and some, not necessarily scripted, but a little more editing involved, you don't necessarily need pro editing software. We've got pro stuff, but editing is such a hard thing you just have to do it so much to try to get into a flow and to make it, to to maximize your time, I guess. There are a lot of simple, I don't want to say light versions, but there are very simple, easy programs to use that make it a lot easier for you to edit. There's Adobe Premiere Rush. There's iMovie. iMovie is what I learned all of my editing on probably 10, 15 years ago. There's KineMat. I don't even know what is that.
I think I threw that in for the Android fans.
Okay,
it's an Android app.
I've been Apple my whole life. But there are lots of things out there. If you need a little bit of editing, and then if you ever need any help, you can always reach out to us. We're always, willing and able to answer any questions. But even if you want it a little more simple, there are YouTube tutorials everywhere for anything that you want to do. If you from anywhere where how do I import to iMovie to how do I adjust the sound in Adobe Premiere Rush, you can find that everywhere. You can find anything really you need on YouTube. And then the last part for me, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chris, is being on camera. Chris and I were talking about how he likes to put memes into presentations.
Yes, memes belong in presentations. I will stick by that.
And if you're willing to be on camera, you will do just fine. You will do great. And it's the more, and then these are one of the things, like the more you do, the more comfortable you get. If you're not willing, be sure to find someone who is. You want someone who is going to be comfortable, who is going to look like that they want to be there. You don't want to look like you don't want to be there, and that you feel uncomfortable. You don't really necessarily want to look like that, because the viewer at home will kind of pick up on that. And then the biggest thing to remember is that you're not professional actors, and that's really the point. People are coming to you for authenticity. They're coming to you to answer their questions, and to meet their local dealer. That's why they're coming to you. So be authentic, be conversational, and being on camera is really not as hard as it may seem, and it's not as daunting as it may seem. You just got to get out and do it, and be authentic, and just have a conversation, and it's great. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk about putting your video to work after you get it done.
Right. Thank you, Aaron. Great. So you've shot this video. So what are you going to do with it? We will talk a little bit about, well, actually, I guess we'll back up a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit more about what kind of video are you shooting? What should you be taking video of? And why is that important? We'll just reiterate that point. And then I think we'll spend a good chunk of time sort of discussing social networks and video. Like Aaron touched on earlier, so much of social is video now. And not that there aren't places for just plain old photos and plain old text or anything like that. Those things still have a place, but especially given how the social networks themselves are trying to steer their user behavior and what they're sort of rewarding on their end in terms of what we're giving them in terms of content, they're doing more with that content. So we'll touch on that a little bit. And then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about live video as well. So when should you use video? Honestly, when I was asking myself this question, I was like, well, there's really, like, just about any situation that you could use a photo or try to capture something that's going on either at your dealership or whatever, you could probably shoot a video versus shooting a photo. And there are times where maybe you want to grab a little bit of video and maybe get a couple of photos, or maybe you get a few videos and you can choose between, if you have let's say you're having a demo day, a customer appreciation day or something like that, and you're just trying to grab some videos of that and some photos. Anyway, there's basically anything that you want to capture, you can probably capture with video. And there's plenty of opportunity. I think there's action going on at your dealership. There's machines moving around. There's a lot of people, and people are the best things to put in the best subjects for your video. People are not things. So there's plenty of opportunity. So basically get in the mindset of like, let's let's just do more video. Let's give it a try. Again, action and motion, and the rule of thumb that I like to use is people at places doing things. We've talked a lot about, and we will talk a lot about sort of the stand-up where you're doing a product demo or you have somebody who's showing expertise. But also, that's also sort of an outgrowth of what you do. You talk about your products, and you have conversations with people who come out to your dealership. So that's part of what you do. But then there's other things going on as well. There are things coming in, there are things going out. We can talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But people doing stuff, that's what people like to see. People like to see people doing other things. Showing something is good, and that's where, like, again, a photo works a lot of times, but talking about it can do a lot of good. And again, like Aaron touched on, we talked about being on camera. This is your opportunity to show expertise. This is your opportunity to say, here's who we are. I'm Chris. Welcome to Chris's dealership. We've got this on the lot. I want to show it to you. It's got a couple of great features. Check this out over here. That's really great. Hey, give us a call. That shows that you're willing, shows that you're welcoming, shows that you're an expert. And then also, again, makes you more relatable and approachable. So if people see you in action, and maybe there's if anybody has an example of this, I would love to hear it. But, if you put a sales rep on camera showing a piece of machinery, and then someone comes in and is like, yeah, I saw this guy on your Facebook page. You seem kind of nice. And if anybody has an example, I'd love to hear that. But to me, that's the opportunity you can only really get through video, and say video on your Facebook page. So, so now we're in this video mindset. Okay, Chris, we want to do more video. Well, what can we get video of? What are some ideas? Well, one great idea that I've seen out there, we got a piece of new inventory in. We're really excited about it. We want to show it to you. Take a quick video of it rolling off the truck. 30 seconds, a minute. You don't need narration, really. You just take video of the, coming off the truck, and, there it is, it's home, and you grab the video, open up Facebook on your phone. Hey, we just got in the, whatever it is, come on down and check it out. That's, literally a minute and a half, 2 minutes of your time, where if somebody who is really interested in what's going on at your dealership, they'll watch that, and they'll find interest in that. Just hire a new sales rep, put them through the ringer, have them introduce themselves on camera, say, hey, you gotta stand up and introduce yourselves to our Facebook page. That's a great opportunity for them to, again, establish expertise and authenticity. A great example I think I used in an earlier webinar we did was a dealership used one of their tractors to show them plowing snow off of their lot. I thought that was great. The video did really, really well. It was super short. It was during a blizzard. People love sort of commiserating over bad weather and the, snow. So they did that, and they, hit on all these really key points. We've got a quality piece of machinery that we use ourselves. Come down and check it out when we get the lot cleared. It was a really simple 30-second, 1 minute kind of thing. You have a particular season, say, hay season's coming up. Well, we got a bunch of balers on the lot. Hey, for, a couple of weeks straight, let's do a different walk around. We'll just go point the camera, and I'll follow you along as we point out some features, point out, here's the application that this is good for, that kind of thing. Thinking also in terms of something like a series is really good. Something that is repeatable, that you can do more often, is that will allow you to, like, oh, okay, well, we've got ideas for video that can stretch on for weeks, months, or something that we can just keep doing until we don't want to do it anymore. Volunteering, I'm a big proponent of, if you're out in your community at all, if you're helping out, whatever you're helping out at, show that. Show that you're participating in your community. That's a great thing to do, and great to show on video. You got a service rep, show them, you know, blowing out candles on their cake. I guess that would be on their birthday or something, but maybe they get like a gift card or something. I don't know. You know, you probably have customers ask questions like, hey, can I use this for this? That might be a good like stand-up mailbag segment, you know, for about a minute or 2 minutes. We're like, you know, we had Ryan asked us, you know, what's the best use of this add-on? And well, Ryan, this add-on can be used for this and this, and thank you very much. And if you have any other questions, please let us know in the comments, and we'll try and touch on them in a future video. So then you're building in interaction. You've got you know, people on Facebook are like, you know, I had a question now that you mention it, and so then they might ask a question. They might ask a different question that you don't want to address in a video. They might say something like, you know, what kind of credit score do I need to qualify for your financing offer? But the idea is that you're inviting that conversation. Are you renovating? Is there road construction? Is there some sort of difficult thing that's happening in your vicinity? A video, like for instance, let's say you're renovating, you're you know, updating the shop, and it's a big hassle. It's a big hassle for you. It's a big hassle for your customers who are expecting timely service. Well, if it's taking a couple of weeks, maybe post a few video updates and say, hey, just wanted to let you guys know, I know it's you know, our half of our parking lot's blocked off right now, but I want to show you what this is going to do. We're going to have we're bringing in this machine that's going to allow us to do this, and you know, just bear with us for a few weeks. That's going to be cleared up, and then we'll be able to provide you even better service than we could before. So you're going to turn a negative into a positive, which again is the power of good content and a good video. So touching a little bit on, sort of the subtext to all of what Aaron and I have both been talking about is just the sort of the appetite that social media has given us for video content. I think some of us, you know, well, myself included, because I grew up around VHS tape. I first learned how to edit. Aaron would get a kick out of this. I first learned how to edit on 1.5" videotape, if you can believe that. I think non-linear editing. Oof. Just getting into, yeah. Anyway, so like or desktop. So that was just, yeah. Anyway, so I'm still of the opinion that, or sort of in this mode that that video is difficult and it's expensive and it's hard. You know, it's just this big thing that I don't understand. But if you look at like people my daughter's age and probably people even Aaron's age, video is just something you do. It's just I just point my phone at something and I shoot a quick video. I pull it out, I talk to my Instagram followers and I tell them how my day's going, and people really like that. So these attitudes are changing, and now we're sort of developing into a base of users who are expecting to kind of see this kind of rich content, and at least, you know, from my, you know, sort of mode of thinking, we need to get over this idea that like video is just something that's for a special occasion, or it's we need to shoot a video, or we've got to put a lot of time and effort and money into it. What social media is doing is telling us that no, we're going to have it both ways. We're going to have it. We want decent content, not saying like, again, that we're all Hollywood directors and actors, but we want content that informs us and again tells us who you are. And I think, again, coming back to authenticity, that's the big key. So yeah, Facebook in particular just loves video. They just love the heck out of it. Facebook generally treats video content better than it treats photo content, that kind of thing. That's not a hard and fast rule. Basically, it comes down to if people like it and comment on it and share it, Facebook will show it to more people. That can be anything. You know, sometimes text, you know, some celebrity writes something on Facebook and it goes viral. But for the most part, Facebook really likes to have video and to show video to its users. So if you Give them video, they'll take it. Incidentally, because it's owned by Facebook, Instagram also loves video. And YouTube, we've all spent time going down a YouTube hole. I spent about an hour watching a YouTube video, a couple of YouTube videos last night on my phone. It's this perfect repository for video. It also helps with your search visibility. And if you're trying to build, say, a library of material, let's say you're doing, you're putting a little thought and effort into doing some service tips. We're going to do a monthly service tips. We'll go over this, but Facebook may not be the best place for that to live, but YouTube definitely is. And you're going to reap some benefits from that, because as that builds search visibility, people searching for either the thing you're doing or for you, they're going to pop onto YouTube and they're going to see those videos.
One thing, Chris.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people nowadays, and myself at times, thinking that YouTube might be losing its allure. That people, there's not as much stuff going on YouTube, but actually YouTube is the second most popular search engine in the world, and it's just behind Google. And people are still using YouTube. It's still a great place to host your videos. And even if you might think that people might not be on YouTube anymore, there's definitely a whole lot of people still there.
Yeah. Yep. And the how you can just sort of browse YouTube or get stuff recommended to you. All of that works really great. We'll touch a little bit on that a little further on. But just to talk about other social networks, so particularly you're probably thinking about Twitter. You might be thinking about Vimeo. People still use Vimeo? Is that more of like an artist? Like people do like art videos?
I think some people still use Vimeo.
Yeah, Vimeo is still an option for hosting video. We're probably going to recommend you stick with YouTube in terms of where you're going to host your video library. But those other options are out there. What I usually tell people for something like, what about doing live video on? What if we want to do some video on Twitter? I'm like, well, that's fine. Twitter does have a timing, I think 240 seconds. There's a limit to how long a video can be on Twitter. That doesn't exist on Facebook or YouTube, so that bears mentioning. I would also just come back to, if you're comfortable with Twitter, if you have like a Twitter audience, if you really like Twitter and it's something that you're going to commit to and you really want to try to build an audience from, go crazy, go ham with it. But if you're just approaching this from like, what are we going to do that's going to have the best impact, the best value, and the best return on our time, we're going to stick with Facebook and YouTube. Okay. So Facebook, as we know, is not primarily a video site. It uses a lot of video, but Facebook also does a million other things. It's got groups. It's got messages. It's got events. It's got
the marketplace.
It's got the marketplace. It's got so much going on. Facebook is sort of the one-stop shop for just about anything you want to do on the internet. If you want to research a company, if you want to do whatever. That said, Facebook's still a great place for your video. Why? It's easier to reach your audience. Your audience is probably people who, again, this kind of comes down to like who's already liked your page and who will likely like your page in the future. Those people are going to be easier to reach on Facebook. They're also going to be easier to reach if you're putting your content directly onto Facebook, which Facebook really, really likes. Facebook does not like sending traffic to YouTube. They don't like that at all. So in terms of hosting or putting that video on your Facebook page, it's going to probably do more for you in terms of reaching your audience, and it's going to be easier for you there. It's really easy to boost the reach that you have on Facebook. I think, did I have an example? Oh, never mind. Maybe that was in an earlier slide. Maybe I skipped over it. Never mind. But we'll come back around to this example. So it's really easy to boost the reach that you have on Facebook, and it's also a way easier way to have a two-way discussion. Since more people are sort of comfortable with Facebook as a messaging platform and as a way to ask questions and to try and find answers, that if you post a video onto Facebook, they're more likely to respond and ask a question. The cons for video on Facebook is their user experience is lacking. Also, from the standpoint of like just finding a video on your newsfeed, that works great. If you're trying to manage your video through Facebook, if you're trying to manage it's to me, it's not extremely intuitive. And your video library is going to be kind of hard to go through and to send people. It's not on the open web like YouTube. YouTube, everything has a URL. So if you want to send somebody a link, that's a little more difficult to do through Facebook. If you want to message somebody like share a video, you can do that through Facebook, but you have to do it through Facebook. You can't it's just a little bit more difficult. I also put easier two-way discussion under the cons. You might get some trolls. You might get some snark that happens on Facebook. Hide it, ignore it, move on. If people have legitimate concerns, obviously address those. So I just wanted to go. Did we have I had an example.
It was earlier.
Was it earlier?
Yeah,
Can we go back a couple of slides? Yeah. So I apologize. I skipped over this. Keep going.
No,
yeah. That one. All right. So I wanted to give a shout out to Artec. They are a dealer down in Alabama. I was actually I've been on their page a couple of times, helping them boost some stuff. And this was one of them that they had us do. And there are a couple of things, like you'll probably notice we've got a sort of the vertical horizontal thing going on here. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, that Facebook letterboxed this. There's some wind noise and stuff on there. But I just want to point out that, so this is about a 48-second video. It's a rep showing off a piece of, showing off the 1734E. They put together a package deal for it, and he just walks through it. The camera follows him as he walks towards the back and then comes back. And then he gives his, he says, come on down and check it out, or here's our phone number. And that did so well.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this is proof of, one of the big points that, obviously we want you to shoot the best video you can, but also that in terms of engaging your audience, it doesn't need to be super advanced. It doesn't need to be edited. It doesn't need a lot of flash.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to show you. So those numbers there are a little inflated because that's not all from organic. Again, some of that reach was paid, but I mean, just look at that. It's a 48-second video. The whole thing, if he had to take a few takes, probably took less than a half an hour. You boost that for $100, $150. 12,000 people are looking at it. 1,800 people are done something with the post, whether they've they want to see that they've clicked on the video so they can hear the audio, or they want to share it. And almost 5,000 views. That's a really great amount of impressions for not a lot of effort. All right, thanks. I'm sorry I missed that the first time. All right. So coming back to Facebook versus YouTube. YouTube, I think, offers just a dynamite user experience. It's slick. It's really easy to navigate around YouTube. When you sort of get into YouTube, it's really easy to sort of get sucked into YouTube. So if your video's there and people are, looking around they have questions about you, they have questions about a piece of equipment, and they're searching around for it, and there's a good chance they'll land on your YouTube page. They might stick there. They might stay and watch more of your videos if you've got a few of them there. The second point, again, comes down to search visibility. Google is our YouTube is a huge search, is the second largest search engine in the world. So you've got this opportunity to capture some of that. Incidentally, people who are searching for, say, a piece of equipment, they are, they're curious about buying. They're curious about a particular product. So you want your stuff there where they're searching for it. Also, managing your library through YouTube is just a snap compared to managing it on Facebook. is no question. YouTube obviously has a commenting feature. People on YouTube they're anonymous generally, so it's not as good for building conversation. I also think the tools aren't quite as easy as Facebook's are for allowing that conversation. So you're not going to get a lot of questions and stuff out of it. It's also, I think, harder to build an audience. There are some large audiences that have accrued on YouTube. A lot of them are people who are, you think of your YouTubers that are really outlandish and off the wall, and we're not exactly putting on a show here. We want to just show ourselves, and it can be a little difficult to build an audience that way. And it can be I know I just said it was easy to share content, but the visibility of it on YouTube isn't as great. So if you're using YouTube to host your videos, you're also probably still going to have to put it on Facebook, which is perfectly fine. Cross-posting between two different platforms is great because you're reaping the benefits of both. But just a reminder that that's going to take extra time. So I've got this video, I put it up on Facebook. Oh, I should put it up on our YouTube page. That's going to take some time.
And you're saying when putting it up on Facebook, the same video you put on YouTube on Facebook, you're saying to put it natively. You upload that video, and not putting that YouTube link over there. You're putting it up on Facebook natively.
Right. And obviously, you can still do that. But again, Facebook really doesn't like sending people to YouTube. They want people to watch video on their platform and stay on Facebook. So you can certainly share a YouTube link onto your Facebook page. It's actually, if you think about it, it's a way to get a couple of pieces of Facebook content out of the same video. You can share it natively, say something about it. Maybe a week down the line, you can just share the YouTube link, say something different about it. So you've got two different Facebook posts that you can use the same piece of content for. But yeah, it's to get the most out of that video on Facebook, you're going to need to post it natively. All right. I'm going to leave you with a really quick thought on live video. So Facebook obviously has Facebook Live. Instagram has a live video option. Twitter has a live video option. There are a lot of live video options out there. Facebook Live, especially, we've seen just tremendous results from. It's also extremely difficult to get on board with. And I totally get it. Like, you're live on the internet. What if something happens? What if I screw up? What if I flub? If you've watched live video at all, that stuff, of course, does happen. I mean, people will flub and they'll, say something, or I've got to backtrack a bit of whatever. But again, that kind of comes around to the sense of authenticity. People don't expect you to get it all right on the first take. And the results that you can get, at least from Facebook, are pretty tremendous. We've seen just incredible results with live video. If it's something where you're not comfortable being on camera and speaking for, maybe do a live video of a product demo. If you're doing a demo out in the field, you've invited a group there to, check out some equipment, take some video of that, just show a live video, and Facebook rewards that content pretty heavily. And we'll leave you with this. If you need more help, if you're still, have questions or anything, obviously, we're here to help. AGCO Direct can also help you out with a content safari, which is what we call these trips where we come in, we start with a plan of what you need, what we think you can use to help build a library of video clips, of photos, of whatever else you need. We come down for a few days or a day or two, I guess, and we hang out with you. We capture some of this stuff for you. So just give us a call or shoot us an email if that's something that would interest you at all. Let us know if you're interested in our social media program as well. If you need some help getting some content on your Facebook page. And then we do encourage paid social as well. We're more than happy to help you out with that. whatever your objectives are, there is something we can do on paid social that can help you out. If you want to generate leads, if you want to drive people to your new website, if you want to promote this great video you did and you need some help with that, just let us know. So contact information there on the bottom. And there's Elvis to say, I'm not going to do my Elvis impression. So thank you very much.
Do we have any questions?
Are there any questions?
She's got some here.
One person asked, do people still use YouTube? We have people moving to BitChute/Minds.com.
Yeah, and I suppose there's probably a TikTok conversation in there too that could probably be had. In terms of users, YouTube is still tremendous. I think YouTube is the third it's in the top 5 in terms of top internet sites. This will kind of go back into that question of other social networks. So if you think there's a user base or if there's an audience there for you, give it a try, especially if it's something that you are comfortable with and that you're passionate about, because then you're gonna I want to try a TikTok account and see what happens with it. That's great. As somebody who has started every time a social network comes around and has started an account on that for to kind of just see what's happening with it. As there are more of these sites that are doing essentially the same thing, the audiences are going to grow smaller and more select. So then it's a question of, is your audience there? So ask yourself if your audience is there. If your audience is there and you've got a desire to be there with them, then do it.
All right, we got another one. As we think about what success looks like, can you please clarify how Facebook and YouTube measure views? How many seconds does it take to count as a view?
Yeah, so the Facebook, if you go into the insights for a Facebook video, Facebook will give you a number of different breakdowns of how many people watched for a few seconds or 30 seconds. I can't remember. I think Facebook counted a view after I apologize. It does change often, but I think the broader question of what you're getting at is, hey, these are all different. They're not an exact one-to-one comparison, and you're right, they're not. And that's where drilling down into how those are all measured is important. If you need help and if you want clarification on that, I'd be happy to follow up with you after this. But you're right, they're not a one-to-one comparison. I think YouTube used to have like a 1-minute thing. I don't even know if that's true anymore. Yeah. But if you want me to dig in a little bit and refine that for you, I sure can.
I got another one here. Can you provide a specific example of the action that the dealer took, Facebook Live or YouTube video, and what the metrics were? We want to learn about success stories and why you think it was successful.
I'll go back to that example that I shared earlier with Artec, and they have, if you just go to their page, they've got a great following, and they've got a number of videos that have performed really well for them, and just photos as well. So it's not just the videos that they're doing that are great. I think the approach that comes across there is one where they're really comfortable with the platform, and they're very conversational. And I think that approach is what again comes across, the sense of authenticity comes across. In measuring success, that's if you want people to just see your video a lot, you can put some cash behind that and people will see your video a lot. I think identifying that objective might come down to a couple of different things. If you want, are you trying to generate something from it? Do you want people to visit more? Do you want people to call more? That kind of thing. That should also be sort of part of the plan going into the video as well. you know, when we do this video, we want to encourage people to call. Maybe we'll get a couple of calls out of it. Ultimately, I think the biggest goal, though, and the one that's probably the easiest measured through Facebook, is just overall engagement, getting an audience to engage with your brand, to develop familiarity, and to develop that sense of expertise for you. Going for it, Aaron.
Perfect. That looks like that is all the questions we have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everybody. If you do have any other follow-up questions, by all means, just reach out to us, and we'll do what we can for you.